Uneducated Economist here. In this video, we are going to be talking about how home ownership will soon be impossible. If it's not already impossible for most people, it's going to become even more impossible as we go into the future. And now what I mean by impossible is that your average day job, even a couple together with their average day jobs, are going to find it very, very difficult in order to get into home ownership with just those two jobs. Now, when we think about how it is that we conduct ourselves in our society, in our economy, in today's modern times, most people still have this feeling, this understanding that if they are dedicated to their job, if they are dedicated to the company that they work for, that they should earn enough from that company in order to provide a decent way of life. And now this isn't too much to ask, right? Like, it's not too much to ask for this. The problem is people are expecting it. And that's where the problem lies, is that people expect that day job to be enough. They expect to go to work every day, be dedicated to their job, and have enough income to make a house payment, to be able to buy into that house. And as people feel this, that this is the way it should be, the reality of the situation is far from it. Like, we can wish and hope and dream that our day job is going to be enough. We cannot make the situation be that way. Here's something that I find interesting. A lot of people are wishing and hoping and dreaming and praying and waiting for the administration or the financial system or the banking industry or somebody out there to do something that is going to create a better environment for the average everyday worker to be able to go out there and acquire what it is that they feel is appropriate for their lives, which is typically that American dream. A house, a car, wife, kids, this type of thing. Right? And as people feel that this is the case that they should be going towards and working really hard towards it, what they are failing to understand is that the ever-increasing amounts of debt issuance is separating the rich from the poor. So now I think about it. Is there anything that government is going to do that is going to make the situation any better? Like, if they go into more debt issuance, it's going to separate the rich from the poor even more. And their people are going to find that their day jobs are even more insufficient to have enough to buy that house, to have the wife and the car and the kids and all the other stuff that goes along with it, right? That day job won't be enough. So they're begging the government to do something. And the only thing government can do is either issue more debt or cut back on their benefits, the government entitlements. So tell me, at which way of that direction is going to be a benefit to the people? Like, if they go into more debt issuance, the people who have first access to that debt, they're going to be screaming the hurrahs. Like, hey, man, this is wonderful. Look at me. I got this new money coming in. I can use this new money to do things in my life. But when that new money starts to pour into the system, and the people start using that new money, and that money starts moving into asset prices and elevating the assets and making the rich even richer, it makes it even more difficult for the people at the end of the line. So literally the help that people are begging from government is going to create the problem, make the problem even worse. Right? It's not creating the problem is already existing. The problem will be amplified with new debt issuance and new money pouring in. And if the government was to go any other direction and say, hey, we're not going to issue out new debt, we're going to reel in some of this debt, we're going to cut back on our government subsidies and entitlements and everything else that's going on out there, tell me, how painful of an experience will the people at the end of the line see from that? It will be dramatic. There is nothing that can happen now. At this point, it is impossible for the average daily job to be enough. It's not going to work anymore. Not at this point. There's literally nothing that can happen that can change the situation. And so I think about how it is that people are like, oh, these tariffs and all the administration and all this is, going to happen. I think, no, there's really nothing that is going to take place other than a massive, painful experience for everybody as the debt issuance gets cut off. That probably won't happen. However, ever-increasing amounts of debt issuance being poured into the system, thrown at a certain group of people so that they feel appeased, will only have a inequality that is the results of it. And the people will be begging for it the entire time. Please help, do something. We need help. We are not able to do it. And the government says, okay, but you do realize that the only help that we can provide is going to cause even more inequality. And the people are like, what else can we do? And then they beg for the help, and then the inequality happens, and they say, how come the rich are so rich? We should be taxing the rich. We should be doing all this other stuff. And they're like, you guys asked for help. And there it is. There's your help. Now you have massive inequality, massive problems, massive desperation that is coming from the average working class individual in order to acquire what it is that they need. But, a few years ago, you were begging for help. See, I think all the excuses that is now used today for home ownership, like how come it is that people have a difficult time buying into a home, and then they have like all these reasons. Well, the interest rates are too high. And I'm thinking, the interest rates are too high? Well, you do realize there's cash buyers out there. They can care less where the interest rates are. They're willing to buy at this price. Does that make sense to anybody out there who is waiting for interest rates to come down so that there can be a better opportunity for people to buy into a house when you have people who are buying houses at this price in cash? So people are like, we'll make the interest rates better and then people will go out there and buy houses. And I'm like, no, people won't go out there and buy houses. They will finance houses. And if you are throwing financial money at asset prices, what's going to happen to the asset price? Right? It's not hard to see it. People say interest rates go down, prices go up. I saw interest rates go up and prices go up. That's what happened to housing. I bought my house at 3 1/8% interest. It's now sitting closer to 6-7% interest on home loans. And the price of the house went up. It didn't go down. Now, did it come down from its peak? Yeah, absolutely. It went from ridiculously high to stupid, absolutely astronomical, intense high, and now it has fallen dramatically back to ridiculously high again. Anywhere near a position in which that I would be able to go out and buy the house today. Like literally, I'm priced out of my own house right now. This happened in the course of 3 years. It took everything I had in order to get into the house 3 years ago. Literally left me with nothing. Like I had $300 left in my checking account when I put the down payment on my house. And now I am sitting in a position in which that I have over $100,000 equity in a house with an interest rate of 3 1/8%. There is no way that I am leaving this place. There is no other option for me. There is nowhere I can go. I cannot buy my own house today. This is a broken, absolute broken housing market. The only way to recover from it is to build new homes, and lots of them. And when you have permit issuance on the decline, when you have builders who are nervous about the future and whether or not they're going to be able to sell that house, they are not excited about putting out new inventory. Right now, we have new inventory sitting on the market for days longer than ever anybody could ever have imagined. I don't even know what the average length of a new constructed home is, but from what I understand, it is now as prevalent as it was during the Great Financial Crisis. People look at that and they go like, oh my God, look at all these unsold new homes. And I'm thinking, nah, that's just the new homes. Look at existing home sales. Look how many are out there for sale. Very few people are selling their existing homes because they cannot move into another house, like me. Like, I would have to completely leave the area that I am in order to find a house that I would be able to buy. I would have to find some other location that has an income that is going to be sufficient to make a house payment. Where is that? Does it even exist anywhere in this country anymore? I mean, there might be few isolated spots out there, but the majority of the people are not going to be able to find that because it just simply doesn't exist. The amount of disciplined and frugality that you would have to go through for an insane amount of years in order to acquire the down payment needed and then still not have enough income to make the payment on the house with the interest rates as high as they are. That's the unfortunate situation that most people are now facing. And then they wonder, what is it that can be done? And I think to myself, well, don't lower the interest rates. That's insane. Like, if you have first access to it, then you're going to be okay, right? You're going to get in early, be able to use that new money and take advantage of it. But if you're at the end of the line, you'll suffer the consequences for it. And only a handful of people are going to get the advantage of being able to have first access to it. That isn't going to be something that everybody gets. That's only something that a handful of people get. And then you have the administration saying, oh, we're going to do all kinds of stuff to make it so much easier on you. One of the things is we're going to, try and make building material costs cheaper. And I'm thinking to myself, how in the world can you possibly do that? Lumber is at $500 per thousand right now. There is literally nothing you can do to create cheaper lumber prices. Yeah. As people were looking at lumber being the indicator of why house prices were getting so expensive and how difficult it was to get new construction up and moving, because you had lumber prices at $1,700 per thousand, that is not an excuse anymore. They're still not building. See, lumber is a sign of the times. It's showing a lack of demand. It's showing a lack of people out there who feel encouraged to buy this economy and feeling encouraged by what it is that they see out there and are willing to jump into the game, willing to start that project. You see the lack of it with lumber sales. You see it in the lumber futures price. You realize this contract closes in just a few days, less than 2 weeks away. And it's getting closer and closer to the 400 per thousand marks, down into the 400,000. It's under 500,000, right? It's 520 or something right now. And this is now turning to a point in which that this building season is coming to an end. Like, this is the time in which that if there was any kind of pop to demand, it would be happening now. This is the end of the building season. This is the last chance before the bad weather comes in. Most people who are framing want to frame that house up during the summertime, or at least before the bad weather, so they can seal it in and then do the finish work during the wintertime. That is a very common thing. But you can build all year round. All year. Doesn't matter what time of year it is. And when you have a perfect weather season in order to build, and there is no demand happening, do you think there's going to be more going into the wintertime? Probably not. This thing is not going to get fixed anytime soon. There is no demand increase coming from lower of interest rates. None of that is happening anytime soon. It'll take 6 months to a year before you see any kind of results from any lowering of interest rates. The immediate results in the markets will be apparent, right? But the actual lag time that happens from a Fed funds adjustment to the time that it actually impacts the economy, especially in things like housing market, will be much longer than a year. It may take 1.5 years, almost 2 years, before you see any kind of real results from it. Yeah. This is the unfortunate consequences that we now face, is that people are hoping for a better time, not realizing that there is no option for a better time. It's just simply not there. It doesn't exist. People hope and wish and dream that says, man, remember back in the stories of the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, even into the 70s and 80s, probably even closer to the 90s, that there was an opportunity for an average everyday dude to go out there, get a job, be somewhat disciplined at that, buy a piece of property and build their own home on it. Those days are gone. They just don't exist. So when you have an ability for people to build their own home, even if they're just an average everyday dude, with some minimal carpentry skills and an idea of what it is that they were wanting on that piece of property, could put a house together. Today, that doesn't exist. I mean, there are some people who will build their own home. Very few people do that. So now you're relying on a company to do it for you. A lot of times that is a small-time business operation that is building that house. There are nationwide builders like D.H. Horton and Lennar and all them other people out there, right? There are nationwide builders out there, but the majority of homes are built by mom and pop individuals. Small-time operations, a dude and some guys who are working with them. And now when you're sitting in a situation in which that those builders are being punished with the lack of transactions within the housing market, then tell me, how eager are they going to be out there to build new homes? They're not. In fact, most of them are finding it very difficult to be profitable in the economy as it sits today. And many, many companies are starting to go out of business. Now, when those contractors go out of business, who is it that's going to be building the homes? I mean, once they're out of the game, they may not just jump right back into it. If you're not actively building homes and having that crew working for you, then reestablishing that is not something that can be easily done. You're not going to fire that up in a couple of weeks or months. It takes time. Some people might be able to do it, but for the most part, that's going to be a very slow, cumbersome buildup of trying to establish a company that can slam out houses. It just doesn't work like that. There are people who are very good at what they do, but they're very much established. They've built the networks up. They know the communications to get material, to get subcontractors, to get things lined up and get the logistics taken care of. That is something that is like a skill that you have to build on its own. And so if you just ramp up demand saying, oh man, all these people have the ability to buy houses, well, you don't necessarily have all the ability to build houses. Right? Can that ramp up? Sure. But it takes time. Right? There's no fixing this. There's really no angle that I can think of that will make this any better for anybody going into the future. Unless you are already got assets, got cash flowing assets, got low debt. Like if you're sitting in that position, then you're probably going to do quite well because the wedge is getting driven and you're on the other side of the wedge. But most people who are suffering with debt saturation, they're suffering with low income, they're suffering with high, cost of living payments, those people, there's no better time coming for them. Right? It's only going to get worse. It's only going to get more difficult. It's sad to see it because I know people are hopeful. They want it to be better. Like they're encouraged by the idea that says, hey man, we can have a better way of doing things here in this nation. And then they come up with all these grand ideas, and most of them are very, very superficial. They are not based around human emotions or instinctual behaviors. I don't know how many people out there I've heard say, well, if the rich only. And I just love that statement. If the rich only. If they only did what, man? Like not be rich, not try to get and acquire the things that they did. If they had only not done that, then they wouldn't be rich. And they would be just like you saying, man, if only they had. Right? See, the unfortunate consequences of people who look at the rich saying, oh man, they should do something. Right? What they are not recognizing in themselves is that they are not doing anything. I mean, if you are taking your time, your effort, your energy to benefit the people who are less fortunate than you, then you would have something to say. You could say, hey, I'm trying to help out all these people. Why don't anybody else like me try to help out all these people? See, that's the kind of mentality you want the rich to have, but yet, are you taking that on yourself? Is there anybody you know doing that? I mean, there might be somebody you know who's that charitable, who's that willing to volunteer their time and effort and energy to go out there and benefit people who are less fortunate than them. But majority of the people don't do that. But yet they have some sort of mentality that the rich people should do that for them. See, this is the unfortunateness of human psychology. Looking at the people who are better off than you saying they should do something, but yet looking at yourself saying, I don't need to do anything. And then wonder why it is that we have such a messed up time. All right, Simon went off for 20 minutes. What are you guys talking about? Population decline of Generation Y and Z plus immigration is another factor. Yeah, but the population decline is really an economic event. See, we went over that here in Cantillon's essay. Oh, I guess it was a members only live stream. You're not a member, so if you were a member of the members only live streams, then you would also have seen that the population is an increase and decrease based on the property owners and their wants and tastes and desires. That's what the population is increased or decreased by. Understanding how this takes place and the understanding that advanced nations, economies that are doing well, those are the nations that have the least population growth. Because if you have a high standard of living, you're not going to want to have children because it lowers your standard of living. But if you are living in poverty, and you can have as many children as you want because they're not going to diminish your life, because any diminishment of your life would essentially be death. so you can have as many kids as you want, because it doesn't diminish your life. In fact, if you have a bunch of kids, one or two of them might actually do well and benefit your life, raise your standard of living. And that's what ends up happening in the poorer nations. And if you don't believe me, just look at it. Right? Poverty-stricken nations have out-of-control population growth. Advanced economies are the ones who are suffering with population growth. All right. What does that say? Please, would you avoid posting in caps? I'm allergic. That's funny. Oops. Chats. There we go. Where's that super chat at? There it is. All right, Gunner, 1337. Thank you so much for the $4.99. Just checking in. Think there's going to be a short-term spike in home buyers when the rates are cut. Have a good one, bro. Well, here's the thing. Last time the Federal Reserve promised interest rate cuts, remember they were like, hey, we're going to cut in 2024. This was at the end of 2023. The statement on economic projections, the famous dot plot, right? This predicted 7 interest rate cuts going through 2024. And everybody got really pumped up about it. And what did you see happen with mortgage rates, right? They were ticking down the entire time. The moment that the Federal Reserve cut, boom, mortgage rates shot up. Completely opposite of what it is that everybody thought. Now, the idea that there was going to be interest rate cuts coming in 2024 that actually started pushing the mortgage rates down was coming with the idea that the economy is doing well. That we don't need this high interest rates anymore, that the inflation rate is coming down, and that there may even be needed some support to keep the labor market from weakening or something of this nature. But people had this general feeling that the economy was doing well. Then the Federal Reserve dropped interest rates by 0.5 percentage point. This shocked the hell out of everybody, and they went, whoa, what in the hell? The Federal Reserve is an emergency rate cut. And then people lost their mind and they thought, oh man, there's problems that we are now facing. They must be doing this because of a weak labor market. And then you saw the mortgage rates moving up, even though the Fed had lowered rates. The mortgage rates started shooting up. So again, when this rate cut is delivered, it's going to be delivered with a message. That message is going to either have a stimulating, right, or a restrictive nature to it, right? It'll either weaken or strengthen the financial markets, right? But it's going to come with a statement. That statement is the monetary policy, okay? And that's important to understand, because if you look at it any other way, then the natural intuitive thought says when the Fed cuts rates, then the mortgage rates will come down. But the reality is much different from that, because the last time the Fed cut rates, mortgage rates went up. So we can't look at it from the logical sense that says, yeah, when the Fed cuts rates, then mortgage rates will come down. That's not what occurs. What occurs is a message gets delivered with it. The market interprets that message, says this is either weakening or strengthening, and then they act accordingly to it, and that's the results that we get. The Fed delivers the message. The interest rate cut is not the important tool anymore. If it was, then the last time they cut rates, mortgage rates would have went down. But they didn't go down. It shocked everybody because they went up. Okay? And now people don't understand that, but if you look at it from the credible threat theory, it makes total sense that they are delivering that rate cut with a message. And that message either says, hey, we are in trouble, or we are supporting. 1, 2, right? That's one of the two. When you figure out which one it is, then you will understand why it is that the markets are reacting in this fashion. Right now, they're all scared about this labor market, weakening labor market, weak labor market, unemployment's going to rise significantly, all this other stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, layoffs and all the other, right? And the people feel it, and they're like, oh my God, the Fed's going to have no other choice but to do this emergency rate cut to protect the housing or to protect the unemployment and all the other stuff. And you go and you look at the unemployment chart, and it's historically low. And I'm thinking, what the hell are everybody talking about, right? I mean, yeah, there was a bunch of layoffs from zombie corporations, and those people who got laid off from their $100,000 a year job had to go to work at a $50,000 a year job serving, or even less than that, $30,000 a year, whatever. A lot of people say, man, look at all these layoffs. And I'm like, yeah, they got laid off from a good job or an apparent good job, and now they have to go to work at a job serving burgers and beers and making beds and doing all that other stuff. That ain't a good job, but it's a job. And if you got a job, you're not unemployed. And so all these people are like, well, look at all these layoffs that are happening. I'm like, yeah, they're going to work at the service industry. That's why unemployment isn't rising significantly. Right? It's not a good job. There are no good jobs out there. Good jobs suck. Right? And so no, the Federal Reserve cutting interest rates is not going to benefit the mortgage. Right? The message that they deliver with it will. Right? Now, whether or not that's a message is received appropriately by the market and is well discussed by the Federal Reserve in order for the market to interpret it the right way, according to the Federal Reserve and what it is that they want, that is yet to be seen. Right? We got to figure that part out. Nobody sees it this way. And that's the reason why I'm able to call out the lumber market and a lot of the things that I have been able to call out here on the Uneducated Economist channel is simply because I'm looking at it in a much different fashion. I'm actually listening to the Federal Reserve and what it is that they said that they were going to do with monetary policy in order to conduct it. And it comes from their words. It comes from the delivery of the message. I've broken this down so many times in member-only live streams that it's like I can't even see it any other way anymore, just because I know how many times they've communicated how it is that they are going to do this. Americans are too fat to riot. 15K for an individual, 32 for a family of 4. The FPL federal poverty limit. Ooh, that is not high. Man, 15,000? That seems really, really, really low. All right, as Americans, we are so far from deserving a well-functioning and quality society, it's ridiculous. That's kind of true. World War III would happen if people lost retirement benefits, so better keep undocumented immigrants in the U.S. Well, here's the thing, Kurt. I have very little doubt that the people are going to get paid their pensions, their retirements, all that other stuff. Every dime will get paid. I am not worried about that. There might be some pensions that go bankrupt or whatever. I'm not going to deny that part of it. The majority of the people are going to see every dime of their pension, every dime of their retirement, every single penny of it will be there. The problem that they will face is that it may not be able to buy them anything. That's the difference. No doubt in my mind. Zero chance of default. Right? Zero chance of default. But the idea that that money will buy anything, no guarantee. Absolutely none. So even though they get paid, it wouldn't matter. Every dime will be paid, but the dime will be worth a penny. Yep, exactly. All right. Complete failure. What? Yeah. Think about it. If you're an average everyday dude trying to figure out how it is that you're going to have the American dream, it's failed. There's no option for you anymore. Right? You can't have a day job. You have to work side hustles. You have to start businesses. You have to figure out how to make money online. You have to do so many other things beyond that of your day job in order to acquire what it is that you need. And most people will not do it. They will blame politics. They will blame the banking industry. They will blame society. They will blame everything else out there, but they will not take the responsibility for themselves to say, I got to do something beyond my day job. I got to do something far beyond what it is that I have now in my life. I got to cut back on my expenses, increase my income, and then deploy that money into some sort of return on capital investments, cash flowing assets, rental properties, dividend paying stocks, speculating into cryptocurrencies or gold or silver or something that is going to benefit them going into the future. Most people are just waiting. They just wait. And they say, well, maybe next month, maybe next year, right? Maybe some better option will come. Maybe some other elected a leader, you know. They will sit around and never, ever, ever do it. There's no depression. Depression is that the new way of controlling data. Yeah, the new depression, is that the new way of controlling data? Yeah. The American dream is a nightmare, haha, but I like the current situation. It's kind of exciting in a way. That's the best way to look at it too. To understand that, man, there was a time that we could have had these decent jobs and it would have been enough and we could have just been somewhat disciplined, and if we screwed up a little bit, that's okay. We can just kind of focus in on what we're doing and be okay, right? Like, sure, it may not have been like, some lavish, wonderful, luxurious experience of a lifestyle, but at least you would have had a decent place to be, a decent income, paying your bills, have something of a relaxing ability to you. Those days seem very distant, seem very difficult. And what's crazy about it is that the opportunity to take advantage of so many different directions of cash flow, it's just unreal. Like, I think about how it is that I used to try and drum up side hustles when I was younger, like in my 20s. I mean, trying to cut firewood, pulling blackberries, like, doing just these odd jobs just to try and make a little bit of money here and there. And nowadays, it's so easy. It is so easy to find places like, I mean, firing up the Facebook marketplace, there's all kinds of people who are looking for somebody to do some handyman work on the houses. Like, there's this endless amounts of opportunity to make money. And although a lot of people are like, oh man, I'm not going to put that amount of effort to get that little. And I'm like, what else are you going to do? What else are you going to do with your day? Why not go out there and try and earn $10 doing something? I mean, you're not doing anything, so why not? I mean, go out there and earn, like, try to figure out how to make $1 on the internet. I don't care if it takes you all day. Right? You learn how to make $1 on the internet, you can learn to make 2. And you can learn to make 4. And you can learn to make 8 and 16 and 32 and 64 and on and on and on. Right? But you got to learn how to make $1 first. And since somebody says, oh man, that ain't worth it, and I'm thinking, no, the skill to earn $1 is beyond worth it. It is the most valuable thing that you could ever possibly do if you're not doing anything. Right? I mean, it's not hard to see what it is that needs to be done. The hard part is accepting the fact that you may have to do something that doesn't have an immediate return. That is the hardest part for most people, is because that's the building that people don't want to go through. Putting the pieces together brick by brick, one stud at a time. Right? You put all this work together and it's like it's still not a house. Well, of course not. I've only put 100 pieces together. There's 10,000 pieces that have to go together. I've only got 100 of them so far. It's going to be a long time before this thing gets to a point in which that it can say, yes, look at what I got. Right? That's any business out there. It's anything that you do. Earning $1 on the internet is not a waste of time. It's one of the most brilliant things that you can do if you don't know how to do it. The moment that you figure it out, you're going to earn 2, and you're going to earn 4, and then it's going to go on up from there. And next thing you know, you're going to make a lot of money, because that's the direction in which you're headed. Money isn't hard. It's an energy flow just like anything else. Once you're in the right energy flow, then it just comes to you naturally, because you're just conducting yourself in a way that has it coming towards you. Most people look at it as a very difficult thing. They find it very cumbersome and hard, and they put it in their mind, and subconsciously they believe that, man, I am not deserving of this. There is somebody else out there who has to change the way that this society or this economy or this behavior is taking place so that I am worthy. So if you don't feel that you're worthy, neither will the rest of the world, and nobody else is going to be able to put you in a position of feeling worthy other than you. You have to go out and find your worth. If you do not see it, if you do not recognize it, then you have to go out there and start building something up. If you're feeling that condition, like your inside feels, man, I am worthless. There is nothing. I have no skills. I have no looks. I have no ability. I have nothing going for me whatsoever. You know what? Go to the gym. Start doing sit-ups, start doing push-ups, start doing curls, get yourself a six-pack. I guarantee you, you get yourself a six-pack, you're going to feel worthy. You're going to feel good. You're going to look at the mirror and you're going to feel tough. Go get your hair cut, shave, get some nice clothes. The worthiness really starts to penetrate right into your soul. Go and get a six-pack of, not a beard, go and get a six-pack abs. If you don't feel worthy, that will do it. I guarantee you, by the time you get that built and you are feeling good about your appearance and the way that you are feeling healthy, right? that worth comes, and you'll just expand that into every aspect of your life. Clean your room or help another, you know? God, Haktua, is that still a thing? All right, inflation has killed a lot of our money. It is extremely unfair. Yeah, but that's the unfortunate side of it. There's also a benefit side. Like if you're in assets, it goes up. Inflation caused all the asset prices to move up. So if you're sitting in assets, then you like inflation, right? I mean, if you don't have a whole lot of debt, right, then inflation isn't that bad of a thing, especially if you have a standard of living that is way below your cost, right, or way below your income. So your standard of living is giving you the ability to then adjust the way that you are behaving when inflation does hit. This is the position in which that most people are not. And so they suffer with inflationary pressures. But me, I look at it and I think, man, let the inflation come. I'm not really debt saturated. I got a little bit of debt, right? I can now position myself to take advantage of asset prices moving up. So to me, it's just like, give me inflation or take it away. I can care less. I'm going to conduct myself appropriately regardless of what it is that's thrown at me. Because I understand that there is nothing I can do to change what it is that other people are doing out there. If somebody says, man, the central banking is doing this to you, I'm thinking, no, they're doing it to you, not to me. Right? You can tell me what it is that they're doing to me and try to explain it all, and then I can internalize it and give it different meaning and saying, yeah, that's really difficult for you to operate in, but I'm going to have to internalize this that says, what am I going to do with this information to better myself with it? When people say, man, inflation destroys the lives of people, no, some people. Other people, it totally benefits. Just saying, right? I mean, not everybody gets destroyed by inflation. Some people do quite well. Inflation is awesome for stock market. It's great until we all snap and just break everything. Yeah, you know, and that's the unfortunate thing about people who end up in that position of like absolute desperation. Like they're not feeling it anymore. They don't have any hope, and they just think that it's all going to come to an end. And they start destroying the entire world. Like, I mean, I watched a guy right over here in this parking lot one time open up his car door and just throw all the garbage that he had in it right into the parking lot. And I'm thinking, man, is your world that ugly, that filled with garbage and hell, that you have to spread that around for everybody to experience? Like, he left, I picked up the garbage and went and threw it away. This guy, this is the hell that he wants everybody else to experience, because that's what he's experiencing. All right. What time is it? I gotta go, guys. This was a lot of fun hanging out. We got 319 people watching with 91 thumbs up. Thank you so much for hitting that thumbs up button. I think I missed a super chat. Let's go check that out real quick. I did. Pooping while standing. I love this. I love the handle, bro. He's been here for years, too. All right, $2. Why many are looking overseas and retire early? Well, yeah. I mean, if you can take your US dollars to some other nation out there that has a lack of US dollars, those US dollars are quite valuable. It's only in the United States that people really look at the dollar as being worthless. Right? It really is. Everybody else in the entire globe is like, man, we'll take dollars, you know. They all got dollar-denominated debt. They know that the dollar is the world reserve currency. They know that dollars are accepted in every single nation for every single item, for every single contract that's out there. Everybody does it. Right? There's no reason why they wouldn't want it. And people who are like lit up about the BRICS nations and stuff have really not internalized what is truly happening out there. And that is the overwhelming dollar-denominated debt that all those BRIC nations have taken out. Maybe not so much Russia, but definitely all the rest of them. Brazil, India, China, South Africa, every single one of those sovereign nations have issued out dollar-denominated debt. That doesn't have anything to do with the United States. Brazil wrote a contract. In 10 years, I owe you $100 plus interest. Right? Brazil did that. That means they need to come up with dollars to pay that contract back. As many people say, oh no, they can just default on it and all that, and that doesn't work like that, and that causes contagion issues, which is a whole nother video. All right, guys, I would love to keep hanging out. This has been a really fun live stream. I think the wishful, hopeful belief that there is going to be an easier way for the home ownership of Americans, I think that is a very delusional concept, considering that the idea that Americans used to build their own homes, right? That's no longer a concept. When you have the idea that builders are looking more towards profit than they are just trying to get a product out there, that profit means that they need to build the biggest, most expensive houses that are available. Not the ones that the people need, the ones that are going to make them the most money. Okay? So when we look at it in this fashion, we can say, man, they need, there could be a better way. I understand that most people feel that way on the inside, but the reality of the situation is so much different. Right? They should, they could, they would, they all that, right? It's a very superficial concept. The reality of the situation is everybody is greedy. They want more of what it is that they have already got an abundance of, and there's no way that they want to share it with people who can't do it for themselves. Now, I don't like saying it out loud because it sounds horrible, but that's the reality of it. Once we understand it, once we recognize it for this situation, we can then start conducting ourselves in a way to deal with that situation. Part of that is cutting back on our expenses and increasing the income, and not expecting our day job to be enough. We just have to know it's not going to be. Once we recognize it, once we understand it in that fashion, and we stop thinking that somebody else is going to fix it for us, we can now conduct ourselves in a way that says, okay, I'm going to step up and I'm going to do things that are going to be different from the neighbor, from the other people who are out there, so that I can take advantage of this situation that is occurring. Everybody else will wait. Uneducated Economist, you guys let me know.